Now, it's no secret that CES is a huge television show. So, to break down all of the new announcements, all of the trends, and everything coming to our living rooms in 2021, I am joined by CNET's TV guru, David Katzmaier. Now, it's pretty well common knowledge at CNET that anytime any one of us needs to buy a new TV, David is the first and only person that we hit up for all of our TV knowledge. So, David, thank you for joining me today. It's so great to have you today.
Thanks, Lexi. It's great to be here. Yeah, I wish we could see these big TVs in person this year. That's the downside of not being in Vegas. There's a lot of pluses too. Pretty comfortable here in my basement now, doing the show with you. I mean, one of the crazy parts that we always got to do is go to LG Display's booth, right? I mean, they really do have some of the coolest concepts. We could start there.
Yeah, let's start with that. So obviously, there's a lot of stuff that we're going to see in our living rooms over the coming year, but LG Display is always the most out there sort of technology, and it kind of really sets the stage of innovation in terms of the TV space. So give me a bit of a lowdown on what we've seen from LG Display and the cool stuff, the wacky stuff, the most out there stuff that is coming our way.
So this is transparent OLED. This is a TV you can see through. So they're saying this year that they've got the transparency up from 10% to 40%, so you can see through it even more. The coolest concepts include this sushi bar, where you have this partition with the menu and even TV shows there, and it separates, the chef from the customers, which is great in our pandemic era. And there's even a little touchscreen along the bottom, so you can order your stuff without, getting fingerprints all over that big transparent OLED. Again, they've done a lot of these types of displays in the past. These are not TVs that you can buy now, but it just shows us what the technology is capable of. Here we got a subway platform or a subway window. So behind there's a simulated scene. You can imagine riding on a train and seeing, instead of, what's going on or overlaid over what's going on, the weather, some tour guide information, route stuff, to gouge you along on your subway trip. So pretty cool that they showed us this stuff and gave us this sneak peek from their labs there in Korea.
I always remember walking around the LG display booth with you, and it was always really mind-blowing stuff. We started off with kind of like curved, bendable displays. There's sort of airplane concepts, and now even now there's a TV in my bed. I mean, this is like the most perfect thing for the pandemic. Honestly, we're spending so much time in bed and so much time in our living rooms. I want this in my house. Now, this is like we're not going to be able to buy this anytime soon, right? This is just up in the sky at the moment. Or can I buy it?
I mean, fingers crossed. Who knows? They could announce it next week, but I doubt it. I mean, this is crazy because they have two TVs here. You can see through the TV at the foot of your bed, and it raises and lowers and looks really cool. Then you got your regular TV on the wall for when that thing's hidden. So really doubling down here on this concept. But yeah, it's the kind of thing that you don't see every day.
I love it. Look, I'm just going to have some wishful thinking that it's going to come to reality sometime soon. So I guess it's time to bring it back to the stuff that we're actually going to be able to buy this year, seeing as we are spending so much time at home. Give me a lowdown on kind of some of the big overarching trends that you're seeing in the TV space this year.
Yeah, so the biggest trend, well, is size. We'll start there because, again, TVs just keep getting bigger. They keep getting less expensive. Massive growth, especially in TVs larger than 75 inches this year. But the other big thing that's going on is kind of a brightness arms race. So, I track picture quality. I compare TVs pretty closely in my lab here, and they just keep getting brighter and brighter. And it's really to help with HDR. That's the big thing. High dynamic range content is coming from a lot of different sources this year. Again, with the new game consoles, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X and S, all those things, they do HDR. And so people are starting to get a lot more of this really bright content in their homes. So the TV manufacturers are trying to one up one another by having the brightest televisions.
Yeah, it really does seem like there's so much competition in that space. And because I guess we've kind of reached the limit of a couple of other things too, which we'll talk about in a little bit in terms of improvements. But I do want to talk a little bit about the Samsung range that was announced. So walk me through kind of what you saw, because you actually got to go and see these in person, which was, I guess, a bit of a rarity in this day and age. It kind of seems weird that we would always go and see these TVs in person, but the past year it's been very difficult. So you actually saw these in the flesh. Tell me what we're seeing on the screen now. Some QLEDs. What's new from Samsung there?
So yeah, you're right, Lexi. It was really cool. Samsung, went through the effort to, put together a whole studio here that we could go into. You see, I got my mask on there. That was a Neo QLED super bright television. And I'm walking over here to a TV where they're demoing more of their game features. I mentioned that earlier. They've added a new screen to the television, pops up here. It shows you all the different features that are on these new consoles, like 120 frames per second, HDR, which we mentioned, variable refresh rate. Before it was kind of a mystery whether this stuff was actually engaged. You had to go in a bunch of different menus to find it. It's nice that Samsung is showing people that bought these new consoles whether these features are actually active here in one easy to see screen. LG did something similar, I'll mention, on their 2021 TVs as well. So, again, gaming is a huge focus for these TV makers this year.
Definitely, especially with all the consoles coming out, which just kind of seems to be a big driver to cause people to upgrade their sets. But let's talk about the other Samsung stuff that we've seen. Now, the frame. Now, this is something that isn't exactly new. We've seen this before. It's kind of like Samsung's beautiful way to display artwork in your home. It looks a little bit more stylish than your traditional TV. What's new with the frame this year?
So the frame is one of these things that's been around for a couple of years. I think 2017. It first was debuted. We're actually seeing some LG OLED stuff here instead, but the frame is Samsung's. It's like their art piece, basically. The idea is you hang it on the wall, and it looks a lot like a picture. In fact, there's this library of content that you can get on the frame that is actual art from around the world, from various museums and things like that. Here we go. And this, so you can see you can actually put a bezel around the edge, custom edge around the frame to make it look like you can frame the frame essentially and make it blend even more into your decor. So the idea is it's off generally, but it's showing art instead of being a big black rectangle. And then of course you can fire it up and have regular television be displayed on there. So new for 2021, they didn't really do too much different. What they did is they made it thinner. So it really hugs the wall, and I think it's a little over 20 millimeters thick. So really similar to what a standard picture frame or other wall art is, and makes it blend in even more.
All right. Well, let's switch to LG now because I know that was another big announcement of the show. Now it's kind of I guess there's two technologies that it's OLED versus QLED or QNED. Now this is the confusing one for me. There's a lot of acronyms being thrown around, especially this year. QLED, QNED. Anyway, let's talk about LG first, and then we'll dive into what the acronyms all mean. OLEDs. LG is known for its exceptional OLED picture quality. But it seems like, what else can they do? It's already so good. What are the updates going to be like this year?
So they've added a new word, Evo, to their OLED TV lineup. So the idea there is it's brighter. As I mentioned before, these guys are in an arms race, and OLED TVs are traditionally dimmer than a lot of the other models on the market that use LCD technology. So at the high end of the market, they're saying these OLED TVs are brighter than they were before. That can help with HDR, that can help with gaming, can help with bright rooms. If you put one of these TVs in a room with a lot of windows, makes the picture look better. So that extra brightness is actually the first real innovation we've seen on these OLED panels. They've been so good for so long, but they've been really similar from year to year. This is the first time, well, to coin a phrase, use an evolution of the OLED panel. So LG's not the only one. Sony also announced this. So it really should help them compete again at the very high end of the market. I don't know about you. These TVs are super expensive anyway. I don't know if it's going to be worth it for most people to invest in this brighter OLED technology. I hope it trickles down a little bit. There are others also adding this stand you said briefly to make it look a little bit more like a picture here. But their televisions also include, and I totally forgive you, Lexi, for being confused about this QNED, QLED thing that they announced because oh my gosh, I couldn't believe it when they first told us in the press that they were calling their TVs QNED. For the uninitiated, Samsung sells QLED TVs. They've been doing it for a while. TCL also does. So LG decided for some reason that is totally able to call their new 2021 LCD TVs QNED, QNED, not a misprint, not a typo. So
That's so confusing. I honestly, the first time that I saw your piece on that, your subheading for that article was that is not a typo. This is actually what it's called. So, what is the technology difference there between QNED and QLED? Like, it's very similar, right? It's just a different name to wrap it all up.
It's yes. Oh my gosh. I don't want to go too far down the QNED rabbit hole. But they're saying that it uses a new backlight system called mini LED. So that's actually important because again, we're talking about brightness before. These mini LEDs, you can pack more behind the screen, which of course can make them brighter. So just imagine a whole bunch of tiny little light bulbs. Now they're smaller behind the screen, and now they're packed more tightly, so they can increase the precision. Samsung's Neo QLED from before has that mini LED technology, and another company, TCL, was actually the first with mini LED. So those guys have been rolling it out for all through last year, and even in 2019 they had mini LEDs. So that technology, from my perspective, is really cool. It does improve picture quality. And of course, TCL is well known for their inexpensive televisions. So they're kind of forcing these other guys to play catch up on the mini LED side.
Well, I'm glad you brought up TCL because that is what I do want to talk to you about now in terms of, they're climbing up the ranks in terms of market share. The 6 Series, which is one of your favorite TVs from last year, I know that. And so TCL obviously is, becoming really big in the market. So what is their big push this year? It's all about the 8K, right?
There it is, the 8K. So 8K resolution, again, it's 4 times the number of pixels as a 4K TV. Extra sharpness, that's the top line info that these guys want you to know. What they don't want you to know is that there really isn't any 8K content right now. Like literally, there's almost nothing you can watch. A couple videos on YouTube and Vimeo. No real sign of that changing anytime soon. And so you're stuck with these big TVs that have all these extra pixels with nothing to fill them. Also, it's really hard to see the difference. 4K TVs are super duper sharp. They kind of approach the limit of human vision already. And unless you're talking super gigantic pictures that you're sitting really close to, I've seen these things, it's hard to tell the difference in person with that extra resolution. But TCL's saying, you know what, we're going to sell an 8K TV anyway. It's going to be their first one for 2021. And as I said, those guys really do push the market pricing down. I mean, they have, as you said, great market share. They're the number 2 TV manufacturer in the United States, TCL, after Samsung. So that's pretty cool. And this new 8K TV they're saying is going to be cheaper.
Well, with that in mind, I mean, you're talking about the lack of 8K content. There are consumer devices like phones that are able to film in 8K, albeit, a little bit choppy. But is this the year that you think people should be finally looking at 8K TVs? Because I remember like the past 2-3 years, you've told me explicitly, like, it's no point buying an 8K TV. Like, don't do it. But maybe this could be the year. I mean, there's AI upscaling technology. There's a little bit more 8K content. Maybe you could just play something you filmed on your phone. Or is this the year to finally pull the trigger, or should I just wait a little bit longer?
Yeah, Lexi, you should wait. It's sorry. This is 4K again is perfectly good, and until we see the real issue is until we see these prices of 8K TVs become affordable. So right now, to put it in perspective, the cheapest 65-inch 8K TV you can get is from Samsung. It's $2,800, $2,700, $2,800. That's more than double. It's triple the price of TCL's excellent 6 Series, and more than double some of the really good 4K TVs out there. It's more than a 4K OLED TV, for example. So that's crazy. If TCL comes out with a TV that's 8K resolution in the 6 Series, like they're saying, maybe if it gets down to 1,500, that's a huge discount compared to the current line. But then you have to look at the OLED TVs and go, those things have better picture quality because they have really high contrast, excellent viewing angle, all the things we've been talking about with OLED for the last few years. And you know what? If you can't really see the resolution improvement, is it actually worth getting, an 8K LCD versus a 4K OLED at the same price? I would still say no. Again, I haven't seen these in person. We'll see how really good they are, and maybe we'll be surprised. I mean, apparently the Olympics, if it happens this year, is going to be, filmed in 8K from Japan. So that would be your first real flagship piece of 8K content. So my bet is no. Maybe wait till 2022 or maybe even later for these 8K TVs.